Hello, everyone. I am so excited to welcome Jessica Donnell, and she is the author of Bucket List from a Redneck Girl. Jessica, can you share with us a little bit about your book?
Yes, hi, thank you. Okay, so my book is about my crazy life.
Mhm.
I always tell people that I wear my personality on my sleeve, but I always carry my stories in my back pocket. And one day I just decided during some downtime at work that I just wanted to put everything down on paper. And also, I always thought, well, I have kids. So I thought, well, this will be something that they can read about mommy and a little bit about her life and maybe understand me better. It's funny because they don't really care to read it right now, but I'm sure they will when they're older.
Right.
But that was the main reason why. And I have a lot of funny stories and some kind of sad stories and some relatable stories. I kind of feel like my readers will find something in themselves in my words, and that's what I'm hoping for. So,
Awesome. I love this. I love the title, by the way. That's really fun. And yeah, I think it's really cool that, one day, whenever your kids get older and they're just kind of interested in the things that you did in your life, they can read it in a book that you had published. So I think that's awesome. And just the relating to your stories, I think is really cool. Jessica, what was your inspiration for, writing the book, deciding to get it published?
okay, so first, let's start with the title. I come from a small farming community in Northern California, and we all know each other. Everybody knows everybody there. And that's where the bucket list, well, the redneck comes in. Bucket
Uh-huh.
list came from my college professor, well, college counselor. They asked me what I wanted to be when I grew up, and I'm like, I don't know, mom, wife. Like, those are the things I wanted to be. I didn't have like aspirations to be like Spider-Man or a police officer or anything like that. I just wanted to be a mom and a wife and, whatever. And so he's like, well, maybe you need to write down some things you want to achieve in life and, create like a bucket list of items you want to do. And writing about my crazy life actually was on my bucket list. And I pretty much, if you get the book, you'll see I've done a lot in the book, or I've done most of on my list, but I've just now created more just recently. So I'm like, check this one. And but anyways, I think I didn't answer your question. So I went off on a tangent. I'll do that sometimes. I'll, oh, and
That's
the
okay.
book is very funny. Like there's all these funny things. I'm very self-deprecating in some ways in the book, but you'll see the humor. I mean, I can even make the belt hand or the hanger sound funny in a way. That was one of the titles of one of my chapters. But discipline over the generations have changed. And if you were, I was born in 73. So, I dealt with discipline with the belt, the hand, or the hanger. And those are some things that I think a lot of people out there can relate to. Um, I talk about, well, my high school had a high school shooting. It was one of the first in America
Wow.
back in 1992. Yep. It happened on May 1st, which the Rodney King verdict came out on the 29th, and then ensued the riots. And then the next day was the riots. And then the next day was our school shooting.
Oh
So
my
we kind
God.
of fell back on and back then, news wasn't a 24-hour news cycle where it was just crazy all the time.
Yeah.
So it was more like local news. But everybody in my community always thinks like, man, had they really paid attention, maybe Columbine in 2000 wouldn't have happened, or they would have had more insight on, what to do in those situations.
Mhm.
He came into our school and he killed four friends and a teacher, and shot nine others and held like 80 hostages. And we all knew who he was. We went to school with him. And
Yeah.
so that's something that we talk about in the book. I I talk about living in a small community. I was bullied as a kid. I had I had a lazy eye and I had surgeries and they called me Popeye. And so I kind of leaned into it and I talk about the surgeries and what it was like not feeling pretty growing up and different. And of course, as you can tell, I'm a talkative, kind of crazy person. I'm just like, 100 miles an hour. And that's how I was as a kid. And so I don't think my parents could, handle me. We had four kids in the family and I was the middle girl. And I just don't think that back then, my parents understood, how to tame this little lion. So, I left home when I was 17, and I found adulting very difficult,
Hmm.
and I made poor choices and bad decisions, and I got in a car accident, was hit by a drunk driver. My car caught on fire and exploded. I barely made it out alive.
Oh my
Um,
gosh.
there's just so many things I can't even like. There's so many things in the book that there's a story inside of another story. I'll tell you just so many different, like my babysitter robbed us. I mean, there's just all these things that have happened to us growing up that are just insane. And then I met my husband 28 years ago, still married,
Hmm.
and we had a Jerry Springer wedding. It's crazy, and
Are
my
you?
family could not. Yeah, my family could not get beside themselves to let me have a moment. So that was something. I'm a stepmom, so I've been through the court system for my stepdaughter.
Mhm.
I actually went into labor while we were in court for my
Oh my
first
gosh.
kid.
Oh
My
my.
husband barely made it back to our town like 20 minutes before my son came out. Um, there's just so much hardship, but then and then I built $1 million business for my living room. I turned a daycare into $1 million preschool business, commercial property, the whole thing, and then
Wow.
basically had to pretty much let it go after my daughter was born with tetralogy of Fallot, and it's a heart condition, and she needed open heart surgery at 5 months,
Oh
and
my God.
so of course, my landlord was like chomping at the bit to try to get my school for me. And I decided to let it go to him, and he didn't pay me what he owed me. And so we ended up in arbitration for that, and or mediation or whatever you want to call it. And I didn't get paid everything for my $1 million school. So it kind of just went, away.
Wow.
So, but what do you do when all that happens? I talk about this in the book. Pull up your big girl panties and you move on and you set new
Mhm.
goals and you work towards them. And that's what I did. I got a degree. I got a master's degree. I work in broadcast media now. And my daughter, who has more serious, severe medical issues, or I'm, I'm actually able to stay home so I can still help her,
Nice.
navigate through all of that. And I decided to write a book about my crazy life. And there's so much more that I haven't even told you that is in the book. There's a spiritual element throughout the book because I kind of
Mm.
feel like God put me through certain things to help me with my kids and to help me as I got older. And I am thankful for all the things that I've been through.
Mhm.
And I'm not a very religious person. I can't quote scripture because I was raised Catholic. Those of you that are Catholic know that's true. But but there is a spiritual element in the book. I have a God story that I call it my God story, where I took off as a teenager. Well, I graduated high school already, but I left the house with my friend and we went to Utah, and we ended up in Idaho because I don't know how to find myself. Even in my own neighborhood, I get lost. It's legit the truth. And so we ended up in Idaho, but by the grace of God, we made it back home with no gas in our car. Don't could just it's the and the story is the
Oh,
God's honest truth. Everything in this book is so true. It's crazy the journey that I took. And now I have a podcast. I wrote my book, and I'm on this great interview, and I'm just having the time of my life doing it all. So
well, this is awesome. It sounds like you have so many entertaining stories that the readers are just going to really enjoy reading. They're gonna, like page turning stories, honestly. And then also stories, like you said, that people can relate to. I like that it has this spiritual element in your book as well. And I love how you said that on your bucket list, one of your things was to write a book about yourself, and now you've done it. That's so cool. Um,
thank you.
Jessica, is there anything else you can share about your book, about the messages within your book, or even anything else about yourself?
Okay, so I I have got the writing bug. Okay, first of all, let me just say, anybody out there that has like stories in their back pocket, like I just rattled off a bunch of stories about my life, right? And
Yeah.
I'm sure everybody out there has like a story. I truly believe that if you have stories, just start writing them down,
Hmm.
and you'll find that like other people can relate to your story and will enjoy your journey. And that's why I think a lot more people should write their autobiography, and don't just hold on to those thoughts. Get them
Right.
down on paper and let everybody read them. I got this, I have the writing bug now. So now I'm on my third novel. I haven't really told anybody, but um,
Wow.
so I'm writing a series. And so I'm on my third one. I'm in the middle. I'm like chapter 16.
Okay.
And each one of them about 28 chapters each. And so it's an ongoing story, and it's going to be a 3-book series. And so I'm finishing that, and I'm not sure what I want to do with it yet, but I'm not sure if I'm going to shop. I don't know what I'm doing with it yet, but I'm just excited. It's a romance kind of thriller. And so
Mhm.
it's totally out of my, wheelhouse. We'll see. We'll see if anybody wants it or likes it. I don't know. I'm
Well,
excited about
that's
it though.
exciting. So, do you think you're gonna get it published, or so you're on the third book. Have you had the first two published yet, or are you gonna
No,
kind
I
of?
I I was just gonna hold on to them until I was done with it, and then I'm gonna go through and make sure that it's cohesive,
Mhm.
because you know how sometimes you get writing, you're like, well, wait, I called him Mr. Something something, and now I'm calling him something else. Like 3 books
Yes.
later, I'm like, oh crud, I need to go back and make sure that they're all cohesive, because it is a running story, and
Mhm.
it's very long. But it's very good. It turned out to be a romance novel because I wanted it to be like 59 Shades of Grey
Uh-huh.
without being like too spicy. It's
Yeah.
almost like when you're reading the book, you're like making sure nobody's around. You're like, I can't believe I'm reading this. This is kind of crazy. But so it's turning into like a thriller drama. Like there's some
Ooh.
stuff weaved into it that is like they're going through so much stuff, but then they still pull together and they relate, it's like one relationship, but then there's kind of like a couple other relationships also. It's kind of like, have you watched Friends? It's kind of like they're a bunch of friends, and
Yeah.
you're like peeking in on their kind of the romances of
Ah,
all of the friend groups, and it's really interesting, and it does have a little thriller element in it, which is kind of neat.
okay, awesome. Well, we're looking forward to this series. It sounds really good. Well, thank you so much, Jessica, for sharing about your book. For anybody who's interested in picking up a copy, again, it's Jessica Donnell, and the title is Bucket List from a Redneck Girl. You can get it on barnesandnoble.com, amazon.com, Apple Books, to name a few. Thank you so much for being with us today, Jessica.
I appreciate you for having me, and also go to my website justsaying.net, and you can find out more about my social media and my podcast and the book.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
Thank you.